The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of Lexington Community Radio or its board of directors. The views expressed are solely those of the programmers.
You are listening to Off the Cuff. Now, here's your host, Adam Banks.
Welcome, everybody, to Off the Cuff. I am Adam Banks, coming at you live from Lexington, Kentucky. Thank you for listening to the show, and thank you for tuning in to WLXU 93.9 FM. In addition to listening to the show on the radio, you can check out our Facebook live stream at Off the Cuff with Adam Banks, or you could stream the show live from the station website at radiolex.us to listen to us from anywhere in the entire world. I am broadcasting from the Deborah Hensley Studios here at Radio Lex on North Limestone. It is October the 24th, 2024. And folks, we are just 12 days away from Election Day. It seems like it has taken us forever to get to this moment, but we are just 12 days away until we go to the polls. And guess what's on the ballot this year? That is right, the President of the United States. I am anticipating a big turnout for Election Day this year. Anytime the presidential candidates is on the ballot, usually the turnout for Election Day is good. So I am expecting a big turnout. We are just 12 days away from today, and I am sure that both parties, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, have their victory speeches prepared. Both are strong in their belief that they are going to win. So why not have a victory speech prepared? But you know, folks, losing is no fun. Losing is the opposite of winning. There's got to be a winner and there's got to be a loser. In just 12 days, there will be a winner and there will be a loser. And losing is hard. And one of the hardest things that a presidential candidate has to do when they lose the election is they have to concede the election. They have to give a concession speech. And what a concession speech is basically going out to the world and admitting defeat and congratulating the opponent that just defeated you. So you could imagine how difficult that would be. Now, if you are living in modern times, which you are, you're probably not used to concession speeches because, folks, we never got one last election. Donald Trump never did concede the election. He still has officially admitted that he lost the election. So there was no concession speech back in the year 2020. When he lost the election to Joe Biden. But most of the time, most presidents, and I'm assuming most, besides Donald Trump, I'm not for sure, but most opponents, most candidates that lose the election will concede. And it made me start thinking of some of the most memorable concession speeches in recent U.S. history. And when I say recent, I'm talking over the last 30 years. I mean, America has been around for a long time. So we've had 46 presidents. So there's been, I would say, close to around 40-something concession speeches. It would be impossible to go through all of them. So it made me start thinking of some of the most memorable recent concession speeches that we've had in U.S. history, and that's what I would like to talk about. These concession speeches are statements that demonstrate a tradition in American politics, and it's just an admit of defeat. You admit that you lost to the candidate and you congratulate him. The remarks that the opponent makes and the messages that they deliver typically include a congratulations to the winner, an acknowledgement that the outcome reflects the workings of the democracy, and pledging to work for common solutions to problems in the future. Usually a concession speech is just for the opponent to come together and say, hey, I lost, but now I am back to just being an American citizen, and I am going to rally behind our president because he is now, or she is now, my president. And folks, there's been a lot of great, memorable concession speeches in recent U.S. history, and I will start with, let's go back 30 years, and I will start with Jimmy Carter when he conceded the election in 1980. It was somber but dignified. He stressed the need for the country to come together, and he expressed his commitment to serving the nation despite his loss to Ronald Reagan. And you imagine being the sitting president and losing your seat when you had a potential chance to go 4 years. Most presidents do serve out 8-year terms, but Jimmy Carter only got to serve out just one term for 4 years. So it was probably very difficult for him to concede this election, but he did so well. Take a listen at when Jimmy Carter conceded the election back in 1980 to Ronald Reagan.
People of the United States have made their choice, and of course I accept that decision. I have a deep appreciation of the system, however, that lets people make the free choice about who will lead them for the next 4 years.
And there we go, folks. Next up on the list is Walter Mondale in 1984. He was overwhelmed by a landslide defeat, and he basically went out there and did what he was supposed to do. He urged the country to unite and pledged to continue fighting for progressive values while congratulating Ronald Reagan on his victory. Take a listen.
Tonight, we rejoice in our democracy. We rejoice in the freedom of a wonderful people, and we accept their verdict.
Folks, that was a landslide loss for Walter Mondale. I believe Ronald Reagan won like 49 states out of 50, 48 to 49 states out of 50. All right, next up on the list, folks, is when George H.W. Bush conceded the election to Bill Clinton in 1992. Bush, he accepted his loss to Clinton with grace. He called for national unity and expressed hope that the transition would be smooth for the sake of the country. And this is another similar to like what Jimmy Carter had to face. He was a one-term president for 4 years and lost to Bill Clinton. People say that the media and the rise of the media is what had Clinton defeat George H.W., but it was a hard concession speech to give, but he did it with such grace. Take a listen.
People have spoken, and we respect the majesty of the democratic system. I want the country to know that our entire administration will work closely with his team to ensure the smooth transition of power. There is important work to be done, and America must always come first. So we will get behind this new president and wish him well.
All right, next up on the list, folks, is when Al Gore conceded the election in the year 2000, and this was a election result that took forever to concede because nobody knew who was president for weeks, months, actually. Back in 99, 2000, when Al Gore and Bush faced off against one another, it all come down to one state, Florida. So for a month or two, it was hanging up in the air who won. Al Gore won the popular vote. They first gave him Florida as just a winning state, and then they took it off. It said he didn't win, and then it come back to say George H.W. or George W. did defeat him. But Al Gore did what you should do, and he conceded the election with grace.
I say to President-elect Bush that what remains of partisan rancor must now be put aside, and may God bless his stewardship of this country.
All right, folks. I mean, think about it. Think about how hard that was. He was notable for his call for unity, like the rest of the candidates did. Despite that controversial election result, he urged Americans just to support George H.W. or George W. Next up on the list, folks, is the 2004 concession when John Kerry lost the election to George W. Bush. It was a formal and respectful speech where John Kerry said that he was going to put the country first and urged the nation to come together and support George W. Bush in the face of a pretty controversial election. Take a listen at John Kerry conceding the election in 2004.
lose faith. What you did made a difference, and building on itself, we go on to make a difference another day. I promise you, that time will come. The time will come, the election will come, when your work and your ballots will change the world, and it's worth fighting for.
I thought that was a really good concession speech given by Kerry, even though I was not a fan of him at all. All right, next up, folks, is in 2008 when John McCain graciously acknowledged Barack Obama's victory, emphasizing the importance of unity like everybody else, and pledged support for Barack Obama.
We have come to the end of a long journey. The American people have spoken, and they have spoken clearly. His success alone commands my respect for his ability and perseverance. But that he managed to do so by inspiring the hopes of so many millions of Americans who had once wrongly believed that they had little at stake or little influence in the election of an American president is something I deeply admire and commend him for achieving.
All right, next up, folks, is Mitt Romney when he offered a measured and respectful concession congratulating Barack Obama and stressing that the nation needed to move forward together despite their differences, and this was in 2012.
I so wish that I had been able to fulfill your hopes to lead the country in a different direction, but the nation chose another leader, and I pray that the president will be successful in guiding our nation. This election is over, but our principles endure.
All right, and finally, I've got one more, and this was the last concession speech we've heard in this country when it comes to the presidential election, and that was back in 2016 when Hillary Clinton lost to Donald Trump. Clinton's concession was deeply emotional and historic, urging Americans to support Donald Trump for the sake of the country while also emphasizing the importance of continuing to fight for equality and justice. Take a listen to Hillary Clinton conceding the election back in 2016.
This loss hurts, but please never stop believing that fighting for what's right is worth it. We must accept this result and then look to the future. Donald Trump is going to be our president. We owe him an open mind and the chance to lead.
And there you go, folks. That is some of the best and most memorable concession speeches in recent U.S. history. Losing and the way you lose says a lot about your character. You know, everybody likes to look at you when you win and likes to judge you on how you act when you win. But you can really measure a person's character by looking at them when they lose and how they face defeat. And I feel like that these candidates gave excellent concession speeches, and you'll notice a common denominator in all of them. They all expressed unity for the country to get behind the leader. And folks, regardless of who wins on November the 5th, at the end of the day, at the end of that election, at the end of the results, we are all still Americans, and I urge unity, just like all of these candidates have done. And as a country, we need to come together and not be divided. But your duty as an American is to go out and vote. And folks, you need to do that in just 12 days. Your vote matters. Your voice needs to be heard. And like I've always said, you have no right to complain if you don't get out and vote. But folks, Election Day is fastly approaching, so mark that on your calendar. Folks, we have a great show ahead of you today. When we come back, folks, we are going to have an interview with the former superintendent of Knott County Schools, Brent Hoover. I am very excited to have him on the show. And folks, we're going to talk to him right after these words. Stick with us. We'll be right back. Everybody to Off the Cuff. Adam Banks here with you. It is political season, and folks, I have been able to interview a few politicians over the last couple of weeks, Ryan Stanford being one of them, running for state representative. Now, this next interview that I have for you guys today here on Off the Cuff is with the former superintendent of Knott County Schools, Mr. Brent Hoover. Brent Hoover just retired a couple of months ago, actually in August, from his seat as superintendent, and he never really gave an official radio interview after his retirement. So I thought it would be a great opportunity for him to come on Off the Cuff and give an exclusive interview to us. And I recorded this interview earlier last week, and I want to play it for you guys now. But before I do that, let me just go ahead and tell you a little bit about Brent Hoover. Brent Hoover announced his retirement back in August. He stepped down officially from the position on October the 1st. Brent Hoover is a dedicated educator and administrator with a rich background in K through 12 education. He served as the former superintendent of Knott County Schools, where he was known for his commitment to success and community engagement. Before stepping into administrative roles, Brent spent several years as a classroom teacher, where he developed a deep understanding of the educational needs of students and challenges faced by teachers. Throughout his career, Brent held various administrative positions, including technology director, instructional supervisor, director of transportation, and eventually the superintendent. In each of these roles, he worked tirelessly to enhance educational programs and improve operational efficiency, always prioritizing the needs of students and staff. So, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, let me go ahead and play for you the interview that I had just last week with the former superintendent of Knott County, Mr. Brent Hoover. I am happy to be joined by the former superintendent of Knott County Schools, Mr. Brent Hoover. Mr. Hoover and I go way back. He actually taught me when he was a teacher in high school. The course was Business Principles. And Mr. Hoover, I think you would be happy to know that a lot of the things that you taught me in class is still relevant today. For instance, you taught me about inflation. And you taught me of how that worked and all the ins and outs of that. And boy, oh boy, is inflation ever in the forefront of our minds today. But I want to thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Adam. I really appreciate it. Just so good to get to have a good conversation with you. I really think a lot of you.
Now, where are you broadcasting from? Are you in Beaver Creek right now?
I'm in Beaver Creek in my garage, my new workplace.
Yeah, it looks like a very nice place you got there. So what does Mr. Hoover like to do in his spare time when he's not running a county full of schools?
Oh, that's a tough question. I have a lot of hobbies, Adam. As you can see in the background there, I have a 65 Mustang, and I have a couple boats in here, and I've got a motorcycle. So when getting ready to load that motorcycle up and hopefully head south after this hurricane does what it's going to do, and spend some time down south. So looking forward to that. But I keep myself busy. I have too many hobbies, way too many hobbies.
Hey, there is no such thing as too many hobbies. So, Mr. Hoover, you have been an educator for years. When was it in your life that you knew you wanted to go into education, and what was that moment like for you?
So, Adam, I think when I was pretty much undecided when I started college and had to go through some growing pains, but I love learning. I still love learning. I find myself a new research project every winter. I haven't found it yet for this coming winter. Last year it was electricity. The year before that it was the history of June Buchanan. The year before that I had a Harry Caudle. I don't know if you're familiar with the author Harry Caudle. He was the author of Night Comes to the Cumberland. And I love learning new things regardless. I mean, it's just, I'm very random. And from that, I developed a huge interest in going into education.
When you stop learning, you're in trouble. One of my favorite quotes ever that I still just keep close to me is, if you are the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room.
I love that. I've heard that too, and I totally agree. Totally agree.
Let's talk about your background in education. Where and what specifically did you study? So let's start with your bachelor's degree. Where did you go to school and what did you get your bachelor's in?
I went to school at Morehead State University. I was there for a number of years, and I got a degree in business education and with a computer minor. And from there, I started my teaching career at Emelina Elementary. And I taught at Emelina for 3 years. And while at Emelina, I completed a master's in guidance counseling. And then I transferred to Knott Central in the fall of '98 and began teaching there. I completed a master's in school administration. And I was there for, I'd have to do the math on it, 12 years. And then I was hired at the Board of Education in 2009 as technology director. Later became transportation director and instructional supervisor. And somewhere in between, I completed another master's degree in instructional supervision.
So you taught in the classroom for many, many years, and everybody seemed to love you. You seemed to really enjoy your job. Was it hard for you to leave the classroom?
Was very difficult for me, Adam, and to date, I don't know if I made the right decision. And what I think about most is how many, some of the best friends that I have today are former students. You being one of them. There's rarely a week goes by that I don't have a former student here. I have a huge number of former students that I communicate with almost daily, and I guess that I'm so thankful for that. I'm thankful to God for that. But the thing that always gets me when I really start pondering it is how many kids did I miss? How many good friends do I not have because of the choice I made? So I don't know. But yes, I did love teaching, and I love Knott County Central High School. Best years of my life was spent at Knott County Central, for sure.
Well, you definitely made an impact, and that's such a thing to ponder on, to think about what about all the people that I didn't get to meet by missing out on being in the classroom. So, yes, being a teacher, I don't think there's anything wrong with spending your entire career as a teacher in the classroom. Do you?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. One of the people that I have studied a lot and have followed a lot is Steve Jobs. I mean, was a huge, huge fan. And in 2005, he did a speech that I listened to a couple or a few times a year. But in that speech, he said he's speaking to graduates, and he had bestowed upon him an honorary doctorate degree and at Stanford University. And his primary message to the students was, keep looking for what you love to do. And if you don't, if you're not happy where you're at and you've not found it, keep looking. But the whole point is, when you once find what you love to do, you'll never work a day in your life. So,
I love that. Well, Mr. Hoover, obviously you hit the pinnacle in your field by becoming the superintendent of Knott County Schools, and you worked alongside of some pretty intelligent board members, and there's a lot that has been accomplished since you became the superintendent. And on November the 5th, there is an upcoming election, and Dale Hamilton is in the 4th district, and you worked alongside Dale for many years as superintendent, and he is seeking re-election. It has been known that you are endorsing Dale. Is that correct and fair to say?
That is very correct and very fair to say. I have a sign at the bottom of my driveway showing my support for Dale Hamilton and my endorsement of Dale Hamilton. That is correct.
Now, we will talk about his accomplishments in just a second, but can you just talk about Dale as a human being?
So I remember Dale from my years at Beaver Creek Elementary. I was probably either in the 7th or 8th grade when Dale was doing observations and some substitute teaching up there. And he is the same age as my older sister, who has since passed away. They grew up together. Dale is 7 years older than me. And I remember him so well at Beaver Elementary. And I got acquainted with Dale, and he is just such a good role model for kids. Dale is just a good person. Kids love Dale. I've talked to countless students that he taught, and players that he coached. Actually, my brother-in-law, my younger sister's husband, Dale coached him for many years, and he loves Dale Hamilton and hadn't seen him probably in 15 or 20 years. And we talked about him this weekend. So Dale is just a great person. He was a great teacher, a mentor for kids. And Dale would be a person that I would love to, if my daughter was young and in school, that I would love for Dale to get to teach and coach her and work with her, because Dale is just that kind of individual.
Yes, and I can just kind of go off of what you said there about Dale goes above and beyond as a mentor. He coached me in basketball, and just the things that he would do that the administration didn't see. He would pick players up for ball practice, take them home. He made sure that our ball team, when he coached us at Beaver Creek Elementary, we always had new uniforms every year. We always had brand new shoes. And this was all done by a boosters club that we would create. And he thought it was so important. He says, if you feel good, you play good. And he wanted everybody to match and be clean and look nice and presentable. And a lot of things, I think it speaks volumes when you do things like that administration doesn't see. So, yes, I think Dale has been a great mentor. Now, you guys worked alongside together on the board for about 4 years. Can you talk about some of the accomplishments that you are proud of that you have been able to accomplish as superintendent alongside with Dale Hamilton as your board member?
So probably one of the facts I'm most proud of, Dale has worked with us so well. And during my tenure as superintendent, we were able to give 11% pay increase, pretty substantial increase. And reflecting back to that inflation you talked about earlier, when your salary is not inflated and the cost of living is inflated, those salary increases are very important. But in Dale's tenure, and I've worked with him a lot longer than just being superintendent. While working at central office, I've worked with him. And since he began as board member, there's a total of a 14% salary increase for Knott County school employees, both on the classified and certified pay scales.
Very nice. So also I have noticed one of the things that stood out to me a lot on social media, because I'm on Facebook, and I see that the board no longer you guys still do meetings at the Board of Education, but I've noticed that there has been an increased visibility with the board getting out into the community, going to different schools in the county and hosting the meetings. What went behind that decision, and why do you think that is a good idea? Because obviously it is, but I just want to know your thought process of why you decided to take the board meetings on the road.
So the school community, the entire school community, could get to see what truly it involves to make a school system work. And it allows them to get to interact with the board members, to get to literally watch and observe as these decisions are being made. And it allows the board members to see, they see the facilities, they see the fiscal plan. You know, when we talk about a gym needing $20,000 spent on it for whatever, I mean, when those board members go out and see that, they truly understand why we're asking for that money and approval for that money to be spent. And it just makes everybody get more closely together. And Dale was very influential in making that happen. He really wanted to get out in the schools and get to meet those teachers and those classified staffs and give them the opportunity, if they wanted, if they chose, to come to schools and get involved in those board meetings. So yes, that was a great idea. And I think that works really, really well for the entire school community.
One of the things that I think is awesome that you guys did was the renovation to the football facility. And it is absolutely beautiful. I've got to get out there to just see and step on the field there. But why did you think it was important for Knott County to upgrade the football field? And what kind of services will that provide for our students in Knott County?
So the field was so old and dilapidated, something had to be done, and most people wanted a new turf field. The bleachers were to the point of being condemned. They were not safe, so we had to replace them. The track was coming up. So it is just such a beautiful facility, and they've done such a good job with it. The new press box that we have is just amazing. If you haven't been there, you really need to go and walk up those bleachers and just look at the view. You can actually get on top of the press box. There's a ladder in the center, and you can get up on top, and it is almost scary. It is so high up there, but it is just an incredible view of the field, and get to watch a couple plays in a football game up there. This field also now hosts soccer. We have had such an interest, just an outpouring of students, both at the middle and high school level, male and female, that have interest in soccer. And it's allowed so many more kids to get involved in sports than we previously had. And this field will accommodate those soccer needs very well. We have upgraded the track. We now have a track that is really, really state of the art. I do anticipate having more kids come out for track. We've seen a significant increase in the number of kids coming out for football to get a play on that new turf field and interact on that field, because it's just amazing. And if you've never walked across a turf field, I mean, it's incredible, the feel to walk across it. And I won't get into the technical aspects of it, but very interesting. I learned a ton about, I'm not an athletics person, never was, but I learned a ton about the construction of a turf field, and I now have a really new amount of respect for how much safer those fields are. Now, there's some evidence out there that, kids run a little faster on the turf and that, but just there's rubber pellets, and there's about 6 inches of rubber pellets under the turf, and then the turf itself is impregnated with even more rubber pellets that causes the fibers to stand up. But all of that, when you go down, it's nothing like going down on solid dirt. Or when that field was constructed, I have a brother-in-law who he actually scored the first winning touchdown on Knott County Central's football field. And but to hear him talk about getting tackled on that field, and it still had big rocks on it at that time. So he says he still has places on his bodies from those rocks that he was tackled on.
Listen, I went to Knott Central in 2000 and it was 2002 to 2006. And I've been on that old field. That was pretty much just like a backyard of somebody's house.
Mm-hmm.
So a great improvement. And just to be clear, it's not just for the use of the high school. Our middle school students can use it. The elementary school students, if needed, they can use that field as well as for the whole county.
Yep.
I think that's fantastic. A lot of people just think sometimes, oh, it's just for the high school students. No, it's for the entire county.
Mm-hmm.
So just one more thing here that I want to talk about, to highlight, is that Dale mentions on his social media page that classified and certified staff can now vote on the school calendar. Can you talk a little bit more about why that's important?
So, and Dale was instrumental in that as well. And as we said earlier, Dale's a former classroom teacher. So he fully understands, how significant that calendar is and what an impact that it has on the kids. So Dale came up with the idea of letting kids, the certified and classified staff, vote, or he was instrumental in coming up with that, and to have a voice in when school starts and, potentially when it ends. Now, if you're a student in school, or at least when I was a student in school, I'd like to start as late as possible and get out as early as possible, but that's not truly possible. I mean, that's a moving target. When you move that start date up, you're moving that end date up as well. So that's it's a domino effect. You have to have 1,062 instructional hours, and as a result of that, you have to fit them in those number of days. But by giving both staffs a voice in making that decision, it makes a lot of people more happy. So this year we started a week later than what we had last year. I don't know what the calendar committee will do next year, but at the same time, we've had pretty mild winters for the last few years. I do remember as transportation director one year missing 31 days, and boy, you're sweating bullets when you get up there on day 29, 30, 31, because you're pushing that end date up in June. And I mean, when you start talking about June 10th, June 12th, people get real antsy, so they don't like that.
Yes, everybody gets real giddy around that time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, Mr. Hoover, I'm not going to take up much more of your time. We're running out of time anyway, but I got one final question for you.
Okay.
You decided to retire from education. Yep. You decided to step down as superintendent. Why did you feel like that now was the time to do that?
So I turned 55 in August, And when you're in the Kentucky teacher retirement system at age 55, you calculate your highest 3 years. And, I think I mentioned my older sister earlier. My older sister passed away last September at age 61. And I mean, I'm healthy as I can be. I have nothing wrong with me, but you have to think about things like that. And I also my wife and I, we have one daughter, and she's a chemical engineer down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Wow.
And about 3.5 years ago, she bought a house, a really nice home in Baton Rouge. And about 3 months ago, we were talking about visiting and this and that, and she pointed out the fact that I'd been in that house 2 times. And that's my fault. And at that point, I thought it's time for me to go. It's time for me to pursue other interests and take care of my family.
Well, your impact will definitely be felt for years to come. Mr. Hoover, I could talk to you all day long. It's just giving me a minute left on the screen to record this conversation. But thank you so much. It's really good to see you. I don't think we have got to have a conversation since I graduated.
I don't think so either. I saw you at Moorhead for a brief moment one time I had a group of high school kids down there.
I recall that.
Yeah.
I recall that. Yes, it was so good to see you. And I was just tickled to death when I heard that you become superintendent, and I welded up with pride. So
I appreciate that.
It was great to see you. Thank you again for taking out the time to join me, Mr. Hoover, and it was great to see you.
Great to see you. Thank you, and I'm proud of your accomplishments, Adam. You've done well. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome back, everybody, to Off the Cuff. Adam Banks here with you. Again, a special thank you to Mr. Brent Hoover. How cool was that? It was especially cool for me because I am from Knott County. Mr. Hoover was my teacher. To see him go on to be the superintendent was really cool. And like I said in the interview, I did weld up with pride when he did become the superintendent. It was just cool to get to speak to him once again. It's been years since I got to have a conversation with him, and I think he came across very well. Being from Knott County, I don't get to include much talk about Knott County, broadcasting from a different city, so it's always nice when I'm able to incorporate my hometown into my show. But Knott County has since hired a new superintendent. Greg Kahn is now sitting in that seat. He was a teacher when I was at school, but never did have me. His loss, right? But folks, today's national holiday is one that I can get behind. It is National Bologna Day. That is right. Make sure you bring your brown bag lunches to work because today is National Bologna Day. That is everybody's favorite processed lunch meat. I would say that bologna is probably the best lunch meat out there. It's better than turkey. It's better than ham. It's even better than an egg sandwich. Something about that cheap slice of bologna just tastes so good. It says here that in 1928, bread slicers were commercialized, forever changing the way Americans eat, going from something available most exclusively at deli counters to a homemade bag lunch, pushed bologna sandwiches into the pre-Depression of America. So bologna sandwiches have been around since the 1920s, folks. During the Great Depression, bologna was one of the most accessible foods to Americans. It was affordable and it kept well for long periods of time. This made the bologna sandwich a mainstay for many Americans, and also it garnered the reputation as something consumed during hard times. Listen here, it says in 1963, the New York Board of Education included bologna as an official lunch item, helping to feed the children in the country's largest public school system. It's one of the most successful and longest-running commercials ever made. Came from Oscar Mayer, featuring a child fishing and singing a jingle about how his bologna is named Oscar Myers. If you're looking for a way to celebrate National Bologna Day, you could obviously make a bologna sandwich. You could make your bologna sandwich a specific way, however you want it. You can make a bologna cake. That's actually not a joke, folks. There is a thing called bologna cake. Just fry you some bologna, eat you some bologna today. Today is National Bologna Day. And with that being said, folks, I feel like this is a good time to take Off the Cuff's Song of the Week. And this week, I would like to play a live performance from one of the greatest artists that has ever existed on this planet. And I feel like she is the greatest artist of our generation. And I am talking about Lady Gaga. I want to play her newest single. It's called Happy Mistake, and this is a single from her new movie, The Joker 2. But I want to play this particular performance because it's a live performance, and it was on Jimmy Kimmel Live just the other day. It was her latest live performance, and I want you folks to listen to the vocals. This is live. This is not studio performed. This is a live performance. So it's raw. It's not professionally produced, and still yet she sounds so amazing, and she just proves why she is the best. So folks, without any further ado, let's go ahead and listen to a live performance of Happy Mistakes. A Happy Mistake by Lady Gaga, a live performance from the Jimmy Kimmel Show. We'll be back after the song. I mean, folks, how can you not call that the greatest star of our generation? The vocals, the stage presence is just off the charts. In every category, she checks the box as being a great performer. She said she would never, ever lip sing in her entire career. She said she would rather die than to lip sing in any performance. So you can always count on her to be live. Her stage presence is better than anyone in existence today. And to top it off, she's just a great actress, too. I went and watched Joker 2 recently. Not a big fan of the movie. What were they even thinking doing a Joker 2? Joker 1 was so well. I don't think Joker fans will be satisfied with the product that they put out with this second movie. I don't think they've even should have duplicated it, but they did, and it is what it is. An okay movie, but a great, great performance. But folks, we still have one more segment to go. Stick with us. You are listening to Off the Cuff with Adam Banks. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody, to Off the Cuff. Adam Banks here with you. Last segment of the hour. The upcoming 10th annual Josie Music Awards is happening on October the 27th. That is this Sunday. And I bring it up, folks, because yours truly has been nominated at that award show. This radio show right here, Off the Cuff with Adam Banks, has been nominated for Best Radio Show / Podcast, along with 9 other nominees. The award show takes place at the Grand Ole Opry, one of the most iconic music venues in America. I am so thrilled to be going this weekend. I am so excited. I'm heading to Nashville on Saturday, attending a little pre-party event, getting to mingle with the other nominees. So I am going to soak in the entire weekend as a nominee. You know what they say, it's just an honor to be nominated. And folks, it truly, truly is. The other radio shows that I am nominated along with are 9 other nominees spread out across this nation. Over 50,000 nominees were submitted for this award show, so it is so humbling to be one of the finalists chosen to be a nominee in this category. The other radio shows in the category with me is the Lifebox Media Channel Radio Podcast, Chit and Chat, Gumbo Yah Radio, Right on Track, Backstage Pass, Overtones Live, which is another show broadcast right from Radio Lex, The Morning Afternoon Show with Kenny Graves, Live on Tape with Pete Trabucco, and Ocean's Pit with Tony Ocean, and those are the other nominees I am in the category with. And folks, I couldn't be more happy and more proud to be at this award show, and I will tell you all about it, win or lose, next week on the show. Wish me luck. I wish I could tell you to vote for me. However, the voting is determined by a committee, and a committee will listen to all of our work, and they will choose who they feel is the best radio show of the year. So wish me luck at this year's Josie Music Awards, the 10th annual. Again, I'm just excited to be at the Grand Ole Opry, to spend a weekend in Nashville, and I love award shows in general. Award shows are just fun. They're eccentric. You can dress up, you can mingle with people, and all the while just have a great time. But folks, that pretty much wraps up another episode of Off the Cuff with Adam Banks. If you liked what you heard today, you'll probably like our previous episodes. We archive them all on podcast. You can check out Off the Cuff with Adam Banks on podcast on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you stream your favorite podcast. You can follow the show on social media at Off the Cuff with Adam Banks. You can follow me on social media at The Adam Banks. We release new episodes every Thursday from 4 to 5 right here on WLXU 93.9 FM, which means we will be back same time, same place. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Off the Cuff, and I am the King of Radio, Adam Banks. I will catch you down the road.